The story begins with a secret hidden in plain sight. A fragile letter, yellowed by time, lay sealed inside an old wooden chest, untouched for decades. It was not meant to be found. At least not until a child, pure of heart, stumbled upon it. By the end of this tale, you'll discover why this letter held the power to change an entire bloodline, and why elders in the village whispered about it for generations. The girl's name was Amara, a quiet soul with eyes like midnight rivers and a curiosity that often carried her where others dared not go. Her family lived in a crumbling mud brick house on the edge of a forgotten village in eastern Nigeria. The villagers pitied her father, a man who worked the land yet owned nothing but debts and sorrow. They whispered that the family was cursed, that no harvest of theirs would ever yield more than scraps. One evening, after a violent storm tore branches from the iroko trees, Amara wandered into the old storage hut behind their house. The door creaked like an old spirit's voice, and inside, the air smelled of dust, damp earth, and forgotten time. She reached for a broken stool to climb higher and touched the lid of an ancient chest, hidden beneath discarded calabashes. Its lock had rusted, brittle as bones. With a single push, it snapped open. Inside were moth-eaten cloth, tools eaten by rust, and a folded letter sealed with red wax, its edges brittle but intact. Amara's small fingers trembled as she picked it up. There, carved into the wax, was a strange symbol, a serpent coiled around the sun. She had never seen it before. Heart pounding, she broke the seal. The letter was written in old Igbo script, words she could barely understand. But she recognized one line, clear and repeated 3 times. "Seek the stones where the ancestors rest, and the fortune shall awaken." Her breath caught. A fortune? Could it be true? She ran to her grandmother, the oldest living soul in their family, blind but wise as the night. Placing the fragile letter into her hands, Amara whispered, "Mama, what does this mean?" The old woman's cloudy eyes widened as her fingers traced the words. She gasped, a sound sharp as a snapped twig. This is the mark of our ancestors," she whispered. "Long ago, your great-grandfather hid something precious, something that was never meant to fall into greedy hands. Only the pure, only the innocent could uncover it. Amara, the letter is speaking to you." But before she could explain further, a cold wind swept through the hut, extinguishing the fire in the clay lamp. The air thickened with silence. And in that silence, they heard it. Faint footsteps circling outside, though no one should have been there. Who else knew about the letter? Amara froze, clutching her grandmother's arm. The footsteps moved slowly, as if whoever or whatever was outside knew exactly what had just been uncovered. Her grandmother whispered, "Do not speak. Do not move." The old woman's blind eyes stared into nothingness, but her body trembled as if she felt the weight of spirits pressing against the hut walls. Minutes passed. The silence grew unbearable. Then, as suddenly as it began, the sound faded, swallowed by the night. Her grandmother leaned close, her voice trembling. "Child, this letter is no ordinary parchment. It carries both promise and danger. The serpent and sun? It is the crest of your great-grandfather's brotherhood, men who buried their wealth in secret to keep it from the colonizers and from greedy chiefs. But the land they chose was not ordinary land. It was sacred ground." Amara's eyes widened. "Sacred ground?" "The resting place of our ancestors," her grandmother nodded. "And there is a warning. Anyone who digs with a heart poisoned by greed will never return alive." That night, Amara hid the letter beneath her sleeping mat. She could hardly close her eyes. Fortune. Her family had been poor all her life. Could this hidden wealth be real? If so, why has no one claimed it for so many generations? The questions haunted her. The next morning, as the first cock crowed, Amara decided to begin her search. She slipped out quietly while her father tilled the stubborn earth and her mother fetched water from the stream. The village still carried the dampness of last night's storm. Mist clung to the trees like pale spirits. Guided by the words of the letter, she walked toward the old burial ground, a forest clearing where towering iroko and silk cotton trees grew. The villagers rarely went there, for it was believed that the dead sometimes whispered to the living. Amara's small feet pressed into the dew-soaked soil as she approached the ancient stones marking the graves of her forefathers. There, she noticed something strange. Beneath the moss and roots, 3 stones stood taller than the rest, aligned in a perfect triangle. On their surface, faint carvings of the serpent and sun glistened when the morning light broke through the trees. Her heart thundered. This was it. The clue from the letter had led her here. But just as she stepped closer, a crow cawed from the branches above, its cry sharp and unnerving. Then came the rustling of leaves. Amara turned and froze. Standing at the edge of the burial ground was a man cloaked in black, his face hidden beneath a wide straw hat. He was tall, with a staff in his hand carved with the same serpent and sun symbol. "Child," his voice carried like a low drumbeat, "that letter you carry, it was never meant for you to find." Amara's legs weakened. How did he know? And more importantly, who was he? The man's presence was overwhelming, like a shadow cast over the very earth. His staff glowed faintly, as though it held fire deep within its wood. Amara gripped the letter in her pocket, refusing to let it go. "Who are you?" she whispered, her voice trembling like dry leaves in the Harmattan wind. He stepped closer, the ground crunching beneath his feet. "I am the guardian, chosen to protect what your bloodline was buried long ago. Many have tried to find it. Many have perished. The wealth is not merely gold or jewels, it is something far older, far more dangerous, and it listens to the heart of the one who seeks it." Amara swallowed hard. "But the letter called to me. My grandmother said it was meant for me." The guardian's hidden eyes studied her, silent for what felt like forever. Then with a voice low and grave, he said, "Perhaps the ancestors truly did choose you. But child, know this. The path you are about to walk is filled with trials. Shadows of the dead guard the fortune. If your heart falters even once, you will be claimed by them." Fear rippled through Amara's chest, but behind it grew something else. Determination. For too long, her family had lived in poverty, while whispers of curses clung to their name. If she could break this cycle, maybe the suffering would end. She squared her shoulders. "I am not afraid." The guardian raised his staff, and the carvings on the 3 stones before her began to glow, faint lines of light weaving into a pattern. The earth shuddered as if it recognized her presence. Slowly, the soil between the stones split apart, revealing a dark passage leading into the ground. "The first trial lies below," he said. "Step carefully, for the spirits test not your strength, but your spirit." Amara hesitated only a moment before lowering herself into the darkness. The air grew colder, thick with the smell of damp stone and earth. Her small hands brushed along the walls as she descended deeper, her heart pounding in her ears. At last, she reached a chamber. The walls were etched with more serpent and sun symbols, their lines glowing faintly like moonlight. In the center stood a stone table. Upon it lay 3 objects: a golden mask, a clay pot filled with shining cowries, and a simple wooden flute. A whisper rose around her, voices like wind through dry grass. "Choose wisely, child of the bloodline. One leads to life, one to death, and one to the truth." Amara's hands shook. The golden mask gleamed like wealth itself, tempting her eyes. The pot of cowries shimmered with promise, enough riches to end her family's suffering. But the flute, plain, worn, almost worthless. Which one held the key to the hidden fortune? Amara's breath came quick and shallow. The golden mass glittered like a promise, whispering of kingship, power, and respect. The pot of cowries shone with the weight of wealth, enough to buy land, animals, and freedom from hunger. Yet the wooden flute sat silently, almost invisible, its smooth surface carrying no allure, except for a faint warmth when her eyes lingered upon it. The whispers grew louder. "Choose, child. Choose." Her fingers hovered over the mask, then the pot. But deep inside, a memory surfaced. Her grandmother's voice, telling her that greed would swallow whoever sought the treasure for themselves. Closing her eyes, Amara whispered, "I choose not for riches, but for truth." With trembling hands, she lifted the flute. Instantly, the chamber shuddered. The mask and pot crumbled into dust, vanishing into the earth. The flute glowed softly, then released a deep, resonant note all on its own. The walls blazed with light, and the whispers changed. No longer threatening, but harmonious, like the voices of ancestors singing in unison. A path opened before her, leading deeper into the earth. She followed, clutching the flute. At the end of the passage, Amara emerged into a cavern unlike any she had ever seen. Its walls shimmered with crystals that cast dancing reflections across pools of water. In the center stood a great stone chest, carved with the serpent and sun emblem. The guardian was already there, as if he had stepped through shadows to await her. "You chose well," he said, his voice softer now. "The mask would have cursed you with endless pride. The cowries would have trapped your family in cycles of greed. Only the flute carries the true gift of your bloodline." Confused, Amara looked at the simple instrument. "But it is only a flute." The guardian's hidden face seemed to smile. "Play it." She raised the flute to her lips and blew a single note. The sound was pure, deep, and haunting. The cavern trembled as though the earth itself listened. Then the stone chest cracked open, revealing not gold or jewels but scrolls, bundles of ancient knowledge, maps, medicinal secrets, songs of power, and histories erased from memory. The guardian spoke. "This is the true fortune, the wisdom of your ancestors. With it, your family will never hunger, for knowledge feeds longer than grain. With it, your people will never be blind, for wisdom lights darker paths than torches." Tears filled Amara's eyes. She understood now. The fortune was not meant to make her rich, it was meant to make her family whole, to restore their dignity, to guide generations yet unborn. As she turned to leave, the cavern's light dimmed, and the guardian's voice echoed one last time. "Guard it well, child of the bloodline, for many will seek treasure, but few will seek truth." When Amara returned to her grandmother with the scrolls and the flute, the old woman wept with joy. The curse on their family began to break that very night. Their farm grew fertile once more, their debts lifted, and the village, once pitiful, now looked to them for wisdom. And so, the mysterious letter led not to fleeting wealth, but to a hidden fortune far greater, the fortune of knowledge and truth. But remember, this is only one of Africa's hidden stories. In the next tale, we'll uncover another secret buried in whispers and shadows. If you want to hear more forgotten stories whispered across Africa, make sure you like this video, subscribe, and join us for the next tale.